All right, Katie, start us off.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Katie Finnegan. I am a content manager with TeachAI, and I'm excited to be sharing today about the work we're doing, both as an initiative and relating to AI literacy. Veronica, do you want to introduce yourself quickly as well, too?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Veronica Ellis. I am content development and research manager for Code.org's Teach AI team. I'm excited to be here and to share a little bit more about our work. And I'm a former science teacher in Chicago Public Schools. So if anyone here is a middle school science teacher or in Chicago or both, you have my heart, and I hope you're doing well. Um, but let's get started. We're really excited to be here today, and um, as a former middle school science teacher, I'm no stranger to questions. So if anything comes up while Katie and I are sharing, feel free to pop it in the chat and we're happy to answer live and to engage in a little bit more of a dialogue as best we can together. So with that being said, let's begin. And Katie, go ahead, start us off.
All right, so first I'm going to give some background about Teach AI and the work we're doing, and then we'll start getting into more of our AI literacy work. So Teach AI is an initiative led by Code.org, Educational Testing Service, International Society for Technology and Education, Khan Academy, and the World Economic Forum that aims to create the enabling conditions for education systems to thrive in an age of AI. And to achieve this mission, we have four primary goals. The first of these goals is the adoption of national and local policies to support teaching with and about AI, increasing the capacity of educators to teach with and about AI too, building community for leaders, amplifying and implementing effective and responsible approaches to AI, and finally, raising awareness. So having a shared vision and language for AI in policy, in education, and industry. So Teach AI benefits from insights from over 100 organizations in our advisory committee. And this list consists of organizations that are leaders in education, educational technology, and AI. So we're very grateful that these groups all contribute their knowledge and expertise to help us make resources about AI in education as well as disseminate them. TeachAI also works in partnership with many government agencies, both in the US and abroad. We have 44 state education agencies and over 30 government agencies globally that also help shape TeachAI's work and contribute to the resource building and dissemination of our resources. So before we get into our definition and work with AI literacy, we first want to be sure to have a shared definition of artificial intelligence. And this definition comes from our partners at the OECD, who define artificial intelligence, or AI, as programs or machines that simulate tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as recognizing patterns, making predictions, and generating content. And in this rapidly evolving environment of technology and AI, it's difficult to regulate everything that's happening and makes it even more important for us to have conversations in education about the best ways to realize the benefits of AI as well as mitigate the risks. So some of these benefits for AI in education include the potential to support educators with content development, differentiation, assessment, personalized learning, and saving time. However, AI also has the potential to perpetuate misinformation, reduce agency and accountability, compromise privacy, and overlook cultural differences. And just like access to the internet or ensuring all students have a computer, who gets to use AI is the next digital divide. We can see now that some students will be taught to use AI responsibly and ethically, and even have access to digital tutors and AI tools that can speed up their work and enhance their learning through personalized experiences. However, others will be restricted when the work world has already shifted to this AI reality. So thinking about this digital divide was essential to thinking about how we are introducing AI literacy across primary and secondary education in ways that are accessible and are supporting learners with different levels of tech access. So at TeachAI, we work to support educators and education systems in teaching with and teaching about AI. So we distinguish those two things as teaching with AI being using AI as a tool for teacher support, student learning, or school management and operations, and teaching about AI being understanding how AI works, which includes concepts from computer science, social studies, math, and informatics, and more. So since starting in 2023, we've launched a number of resources that support stakeholders in teaching with and teaching about AI in their contexts. And this started with practical toolkits to help school leaders, district administrators, and policymakers learn about AI, educate others, and support creating use policies and guidelines for their communities. Then we created guidance on the future of computer science in partnership with CSTA to address questions that code.org and members of our community have been hearing about the specific impact of AI on the CS discipline. We also recently launched a second volume of these guidance documents, and we're going to be sharing a little bit more about what's in those briefs later on today. And with AI, we want to make sure that our work endures, even as new technologies emerge, which led to our AI guidance analysis. And most recently, we released a draft framework on AI literacy, which is going to be the focus of today's conversation. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Veronica to share a bit more about how we are defining AI literacy and thinking about its implementation in primary and secondary education.
Great. Thank you, Katie. And I threw this in the chat, but I do want to reiterate all of these slides that you're seeing are available for download for free. And you don't have to log in or anything, but they're editable, downloadable slides, whether you'd like to give a presentation or learn more about AI generally, or to introduce new conversations about these technologies and their uses or the risks and benefits in your own school communities. You are welcome and encouraged to do so. And we're happy to help if there's any editing or content that you want added in there. I'll also share, Katie mentioned, we work with a number of government agencies, including state education agencies. And if you didn't see your state on there, that doesn't mean that they're not actively working on it. But just to say, everything that we're talking about, we are on the ground working with folks. And if you feel you want to see more of these conversations in your setting, let us know, because we're happy to collaborate. And this is something you can also take to your leadership and say, hey, they're already working with our state education agency or our superintendents. And so let's continue to keep the wheels moving here. Okay, that all being said, I'm going to talk a little bit about our recently launched AI literacy framework. We launched this framework in May of this year in partnership with the European Commission and the OECD, as well as an international team of experts in the fields of learning design, AI, computer science, and more. So we call this a draft framework because since launching in May, we're undergoing a period of public comment, consultation, and validation. We want to learn from as many stakeholders as possible about what makes this framework great, but also where we can improve, what we should revise to make sure that these materials are durable and relevant, and most importantly, practical for folks in classrooms and for folks making decisions about what happens in schools. Again, as I'm going through this information, if there's anything that comes to mind or anything you're curious about, feel free to pop it into the chat and we're happy to talk a little bit more about your specific questions. So all of these materials to be launched in 2026 include updated content and revisions, ways to make this more practical, including exemplars or implementation resources. Again, what we care about is bridging the gap between a huge framework document or huge policy decisions that are kind of hard to digest, and then what we actually do when we're in front of students during our day. I really want to share that AI literacy is not entirely new. It builds on a lot of the things that we've been working on with students for some amount of time, whether that's lateral thinking, verifying sources of information online, teaching how to decompose a problem or debug our code, conversations about intellectual property, digital citizenship, or things like design thinking, problem formulation, and iteration. These are all part of AI literacy, and we hope that we know it feels like another thing on all of our plates, but it kind of is an evolution of what we've been working with students on for so long. We define AI literacy as the technical knowledge, durable skills, and future-ready attitudes required to thrive in a world influenced by AI. It enables learners to engage, create with, manage, and design AI while critically evaluating its benefits, risks, and ethical implications. So we built this definition on existing work from the European Commission's Digital Competence Framework for Citizens. So this is using digital technologies in society for folks of all ages. We built off of UNESCO's AI competency framework for students and for teachers, Digital Promises AI literacy framework, which is based on using, understanding, and evaluating AI, as well as AI for K-12's 5 Big Ideas for AI in Education. And this is all in service of alignment with the 2029 PISA exam, which is that international assessment that tells us how horribly we're all doing in the US. That's neither here nor there, but it's aligned with the PISA 2029 exam, which will feature a domain on media and artificial intelligence literacy. So I'm really excited about this because it means we have some amount of follow through and some metric to see, okay, what happens when we start putting this in schools and how are students really using these technologies? So I'm excited to see where this continues to evolve. Um, our framework is composed primarily of knowledge, skills, and attitudes that create student-facing competencies, which are basically what we hope students will do and think about as they use AI in their daily lives. We know that these competences, which are really like learning outcomes, paint kind of a rosy picture of where students can be. And we know that it will take a whole ecosystem to get there, but we hope that providing this framework is a good start for us to think about what we really want. So I'll get into more detail about our knowledge, skills, and attitudes in a little bit, but I did want to highlight how they all come together. And I also wanted to highlight something that we're really proud of when it comes to practicality in this framework, which is our primary and secondary education scenarios. So every single student outcome that you see in this framework has 2 accompanying learning scenarios that provide bite-sized ways for you to incorporate AI literacy experiences into your content area. Um, these are applicable for social studies classrooms or ELA activities, as well as computer science, math, or if you're teaching statistics or CS. And the primary scenarios in particular can be done without direct access to AI or to many technological devices and tools, which for us accounts for if you're in a setting where AI isn't allowed on your campus, or if classroom by classroom you're still figuring it out, or if you're teaching groups of students who aren't yet legally allowed to use AI. So we want to get them thinking and building different skills, but you can do that in hands-off ways. Again, these scenarios are meant to be facilitated by an educator, and they're to really bring these student-facing competences to light. So in this example, we have decide whether to use AI systems based on the nature of the task. The primary scenario involves a conversation about when AI use is appropriate for an everyday task versus when you would need individuality, creativity, or human judgment, right? My mom's birthday was yesterday, and I wrote her a birthday card, and I wasn't going to consult ChatGPT for how I wanted to do that. I made sure to include special memories and jokes that she would really appreciate. Whereas if I were writing a grocery list or coming up with outfit ideas for something, maybe I'm okay using an AI to generate some of those ideas for me. Um, However, our secondary education scenario focuses more on using AI for learning experiences. This is a conversation about whether specific AI systems should be avoided or used to complete a specific task based on how well each option aligns with an assignment's learning objectives. This comes back to a conversation about, well, how are we really assessing the success of your work? What kinds of things am I looking for to determine if you've met a learning objective? And then when can AI help you build those skills versus when is it taking away from the things we want you to learn? And we'll feature some more of these education scenarios so you can get a sense of how to bring these to light in the classroom. And if you're finding ones that are really compelling to you, we'd love to hear about it. Or if you've introduced some of these in your own way, we'd also love to learn more. Um, and we want to emphasize that AI literacy can happen in every classroom, but it's not every single teacher's responsibility to teach every single aspect of AI literacy. We are not expecting a ELA teacher to get into the nitty gritty of the data and designing AI models with students themselves. AI literacy can look very different in a computer science or a math classroom compared to what we're doing in social studies, ELA, or a foreign language classroom, for example. So I wanted to name that upfront because I know there's a lot of information, and each outcome can be really different depending on our content areas. I want to share our knowledge, skills, and attitudes a little bit more broadly, coming back to the skills that we've been working on with students for some amount of time. We present a lot of knowledge about how AI works, its capabilities and limitations, and we kind of set an upper limit for when AI excels at certain tasks versus when it has a bunch of limitations and maybe it's not the right thing to use, as well as highlighting some of the ethical and societal implications of its use. We also include skills, and you'll recognize all these skills as things that we have been working with students on for a long time. Critical thinking, creativity, self and social awareness, communication, problem solving. We try to refocus things that we know about these skills for an AI context. So again, not introducing a ton of new stuff. It's really just shifting our focus for this new technology. And finally, attitudes. We hope that students are responsible, curious, innovative, adaptable, and empathetic as they approach AI. I hope that they're a little bit skeptical as well. And we hope that by including these attitudes and these skills and integrating it with knowledge, that we're introducing ethics in a way where students are really holistically thinking about it. Rather than just saying, use AI ethically, we really hope to spell out the considerations and the perspectives that lead to ethical AI use. I'm just going to share a few of our knowledge statements, which we wanted to present as kind of a condensed textbook approach. So this is from our knowledge section about capabilities and limitations. We talk about how AI excels at pattern recognition, but lacks emotions, ethical reasoning, context, and originality. We talk about how AI requires vast amounts of computing power, which consumes energy and has sustainability implications. And we also talk about AI's capabilities to generate human-like content and why that's really important for us to be able to identify misinformation or manipulative materials. If you're feeling like you're not really sure where to get started, I would direct anybody to our knowledge section. Again, this is your condensed need to know: how does AI work? What are its capabilities and limitations? And how will it affect life beyond my immediate use? That's where the knowledge section is really going to give you a good primer and hopefully establish a basis for the competences that you see later on with students. And our skills. So for our skills, I just wanted to show a little bit more. We have some guiding questions. For critical thinking, our refocused version is: how can I check the accuracy of AI-generated outputs and reduce the risk of harmful bias? How do I know if AI is relevant or appropriate? Something like self and social awareness: how does AI impact myself and others? Creativity: how can I use AI responsibly to bring my creative visions to life? Right. So we wanted to include some scaffolding questions. We wanted to show a little bit more of what it would mean to be a critical thinker in the age of AI and to guide interactions based on an understanding of its technical capabilities and what that means for societal and ethical considerations. And again, we've categorized our framework into 4 different domains based on how students are interacting with AI literacy. I want to highlight this isn't a progression for how students should go through using AI or how you should go through using AI. For some of us, our first experience is creating a cat meme with AI. For others, our first experience is using a tool to save us some time. So I just want to highlight these are interactions that can happen in many different ways, and they take shape across content areas in different forms. I'm going to pass it back to Katie to talk a little bit more about our learning scenarios as well. Oh, sorry. These are examples of our competences. Katie, if you want to go through it.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, just give me one moment. So as Veronica outlaid in those 4 domains, we also have these competence statements, which are much like learning outcomes to explain the different ways that learners should demonstrate competency in AI literacy. So, for example, in this engaging domain, we can see recognizing AI's role and influence across contexts, evaluating whether AI output should be accepted, revised, or rejected, thinking about how predictive AI systems provide recommendations, which can both help and hurt our perspectives, and also how AI can amplify societal biases. So, like Veronica mentioned, there is a balance of that kind of skepticism that we want students to have when they're interacting with AI, while also thinking about the ways that it can enhance our lives and our access to information. On the other hand, we can see competences in the creating with AI domain getting into some of that thinking about how AI can once again help and hurt my perspectives in the interactions that we have when creating with AI. So that's things like using AI systems to explore new perspectives, visualizing, prototyping, and combining ideas, and collaborating with generative AI systems to get feedback, refine our results, and think about how we are processing different information. And we're able to illustrate what these competences look like in the classroom through our learning scenarios. So as you can see, we have a competence statement from that last slide from the engaging with AI domain that is about examining how predictive AI systems provide recommendations that can inform and limit perspectives. So I'm just going to reiterate some of the information that Veronica shared about learning scenarios earlier, and that these are activities or experiences that can take place in both primary and secondary classrooms and across different content areas. And for this competence in particular, we can see the example of this competence in primary education being counting by twos, fives, and tens to introduce how humans recognize and predict sequences, then explore how AI generates recommendations based on patterns. Again, we deliberately created primary scenarios that could be enacted without direct access to AI, or in some cases without access to technology altogether, to also safeguard against schools and districts where AI use policies are more ambiguous or there isn't access to this technology. So this is an example of how you can start to build AI literacy skills without having direct technological access or use. And then our secondary education scenario gets into examining how social media algorithms can contribute to spreading disinformation or misinformation about a public health issue, and thinking about comparing those responsibilities of individuals and platforms and addressing the harm. So again, we can see two different scenarios that could be integrated into different content areas and different levels of education as we start to think about bringing these skills into the classroom. Again, with the creating with AI domain, we are emphasizing generative AI use, but we want students to go beyond just using technology and thinking about how technology use is integrating and implicating what they learn and the ways that they are coming up with original ideas. So, for example, with this competence about using AI systems to explore new perspectives and approaches, we can see at the primary level, this can be evaluating AI-generated images to create story settings based on students' original ideas. Whereas the secondary education scenario is, again, using AI to develop counter-arguments for a class debate to anticipate and address opposing viewpoints. So in the language of both the competence and the scenarios, we can see that we want to encourage students to be reflecting on the thinking they are doing and the artifacts that they may be creating with AI and how they are servicing their own ideas and creativity and final products. The managing AI scenario, Veronica shared a little bit about, so I'm going to focus more on the designing AI competence and accompanying scenarios, which is thinking about collecting and curating data that could be used to train an AI model by considering relevance, representation, and political or potential impact. When it comes to the designing AI domain, sometimes we receive pushback for including something like designing AI because it's perceived as being too techy. But realistically, these are things that students can do and already are doing. So through this framework, we want to promote a constructionist approach that students should be using, working on, and building AI to suit their own interests and pursuits. So something that's really great about having both these primary and secondary education scenarios is we propose realistic ways that students can be designing AI solutions and really getting hands-on with this technology. So as you can see here for this competence, at the primary education level, students are labeling and sorting building blocks based on their specific features to create decision trees. And at the secondary level, students are exploring how a basic AI model can be trained to recognize recyclable materials from photos taken in real life or collected online. And then they're able to describe the impact that data had on the model's performance. So throughout all of the primary and education scenarios in this domain in particular, we're really looking at students interacting with how AI works in hands-on ways and seeing how this can be done across content areas too.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. I see Brett sent a question, which is the goal to establish AI as a separate content area or standards? Or is it more of a learning framework that will be embedded and integrated with the K-12 computer science standards? That's a great question, and it's something we hear a lot. The goal with this framework is to be embedded throughout content areas. So we've certainly worked with CSTA on their AI priorities for all learners. I know that they're updating these computer science standards to include some more about AI in the standards as well. And so there's certainly opportunities for like designing to be integrated with those standard experiences as well. But we really have tried to emphasize an interdisciplinary nature as well. I hope that answers Brett's question. Yeah, of course. Um, I know we've thrown a lot of information out there. And again, I want to emphasize we're happy to check if there's anything we're curious about, anything we want to learn more about, or what resonates with us. And then Dr. Sonia says, as a CSTA standards writer team member, we will be adding AI within all the standards. There we go. We've answered that question. Nice. Excellent. I do want to highlight, because we are launching this final version in 2026, we're interested to know how folks are interacting or what they think about this framework. And so we've launched a framework to collect broad feedback about the content and structure of the framework. And we've also created a facilitation toolkit. So like I mentioned earlier, the materials that Katie has shared in this presentation are available to the public through the TeachAI website. The facilitation toolkit includes slides about the framework specifically, as well as discussion questions, FAQs, and tips for if you'd like to lead a group session. This could be within your school community or with leadership and anybody else that you feel you really want to bring this conversation to. Yes, I see the question. Do you have a PowerPoint to share with middle schoolers that do not really understand AI? Yes, so we call it the kitchen sink presentation that includes the basics of how AI works, really demystifying some of that technology. I think it's appropriate personally for middle schoolers, but it's on Google Slides, so you're able to download, edit, and tailor it to your specific context and needs. Just check in our chat. Great. Recommendations on successful structures for educating teachers for other districts. Awesome. Yeah, I think avenues for collaboration are really important, and I love the opportunity to talk more about that. Yes. Okay. And Katie sent in that link. Perfect. Did we just get a raised hand? I heard a Zoom noise, so I want to check. Cool. And I see another question, will it be adaptable as AI evolves? For example, I believe we have AGI and ASI on the horizon, or if the AI terminology will be standard going forward. That's a great question because the pace at which this changes is so rapid. And we're still figuring out the best way because we'll launch it in 2026 and there's going to be a lot that changes from that point onward. We're still, again, deciding on the best way to address technology that's yet to come. I think our approach right now is leaning into the durable skills and the things that we already know so far. But if you do have a perspective and ideas about the best way to do that, I'd love to learn more and happy to connect in the future. Great. So again, our materials are all available for folks to download and to edit and to use for their communities. And I did want to share a recent launch of guidance on the future of computer science education in an age of AI. So a year ago, we launched the first version of this publication, which addressed key questions about computer science, what teachers are up to, and then how to help students become critical consumers and responsible creators with computer science in an age of AI. We also launched results from a teacher survey of global educators in computer science about what they're concerned about and what they're excited about when it comes to AI in the classroom. So we included a few new topics for these briefs, including how might learning CS evolve in an AI-driven world, which focuses a lot more on pedagogical approaches and things that we're doing in the classroom. We included a brief about enhancing creative thinking in computer science, which AI experiences are foundational for every CS student. So this was in collaboration with AI for K-12 as well. We have a brief on how AI can support universal design for learning to make CS more inclusive. How might AI be used to broaden participation in CS? So this is a brief that features kind of op-eds and personal reflections from folks across the computer science community. And then we also have a one-pager which came from a lot of demand in the community, just kind of what folks have been asking for today, even a one-pager about what is AI, providing those key definitions and understandings. We also have a one-pager about primary computer science education in an age of AI, which looks at some developmental considerations and ways to introduce these learning experiences for our littles. And throughout our work, our approach is typically gathering a ton of educator ideas, concerns, and successes, infusing that with research, industry insights, and expert feedback to create focus briefs that lead to, which we love, practical applications, calls to action, and opportunities for future study. So one such example is our How Might Learning CS Evolve in an AI-Driven World. We kind of play out this transition from precision and sequencing, programming languages, to highlight engagement, relevance, creativity, and introducing AI topics and tools and design ethics. I see some questions about, are we working with the AI task force in Massachusetts and Connecticut? Not currently, but I would love to. And is there one in New York? I'd love to learn more. We certainly are connected with folks who are in New York. I know New York is not one of the states that's part of TeachAI right now, but there's certainly a lot of districts who are doing a ton of great work in New York. So same goes for Massachusetts. So we'd love to connect and learn more about those task forces. Yeah, and we love comic book style as well. Okay, yeah, so, but for the past, I mean, year and a half, TeachAI and CSTA have really tried to engage the community to figure out what are our important questions. Like our first brief was, why is it still important to learn to code? And how can we use AI now to broaden participation in computer science? So there's a lot of tie-ins between all of the work that we do, specifically the future of CS work and the AI literacy framework, as well as the recent CSTA AI priorities report, and hopefully this updated integration of the standards. Yes, and we can share that kitchen sink presentation. I believe Katie's got it immediately. Perfect. Okay. I know we have a few minutes left, and so I just wanted to say thank you all for joining us tonight and to emphasize if there's anything that we're curious about or that you have questions about or want us to show you and walk through from our resources, or if it comes to sharing best practices and experiences with teaching with and about AI, we're happy to hear from you and to learn more. And we also have time for Q&A as well. So I just want to make sure that we get a chance to voice everything. I love engagement and dialogue, so I'm happy to hear from you too. Huge data processing. Yes, so to SAR, I think we have our definition of AI earlier in the slide. We can go back to it if that's helpful, or we can send that in the chat.
To that same question, I'd also recommend looking at that first knowledge section of our framework, which really gets into how machine learning works and provides, I think, a pretty clear explanation of the basics of AI processing and things like that.
Great. I don't know if we can have it where our attendees can come off of mute to share questions or curiosities. Again, we'd love to hear from you all.
Yeah, Veronica, if someone were to raise their hand, I can allow them to
Oh,
can ask a question. So yeah, please, you
amazing.
guys.
Amazing. Oh yeah, the opportunities. Okay. So Dr. Sonia, I'll go ahead. You can find, so I'll go back to that slide because I think that's what you're looking for. Okay. Perfect. Yes, and we can share these slides afterward. It's all available at teachai.org, and we'll make sure to have the kind folks at Infosys go ahead and send this over so that you're able to access this and use it for your own perspectives and needs too.
Yep, the recording of this and the slides will be shared to you via email and will also be accessible on the Pathfinders Online Institute as well. And I will share that link too.
Cool. Are the resources available that can be used for PD for helping teachers build up their knowledge about AI? Absolutely. That's where I would say that kitchen sink presentation has everything you need to know. And then also the condensed knowledge section of the framework, which is also available at the TeachAI website. And now that you're bringing that up, I'm thinking, okay, how can we make that even more practical? So maybe there's a need to update some of those slides with the framework as well. Yeah. But yes, there's definitely resources available. Of course. Mm, yes, Christy, I agree with you.
And yes, Dr. Sonia, the recording will be shared as well.
I'll go back to a slide with the learning scenario and some competences in case folks have questions about that. I think we had a question in the Q&A earlier about, well, what do I do if my structure is really rigid and I don't have a ton of control over, decisions made for my school building, which I definitely empathize with. And that's where, our goal with the learning scenarios is to try to introduce little bite-sized pieces. Hopefully they fit in with the things that we're working on with students already. And they don't divert too far from a lesson plan that's already in place. So that's right now our best approach for working in situations when it's a little harder to make those calls. But like you, I think we'd love to learn more about how they're implementing it and when they're in those contexts, what works really well. Yeah.
Yes, the Online Institute is completely free for all educators. Please feel free to share.
Again, if folks want to come off of mute or raise their hand, we're happy to bring this more into a dialogue. We can talk about what we're curious about, what resonates. I think I really love just hearing from folks about what's working and what's on their mind. So I love when the chat's popping off, but if anyone feels so brave, we'd love to hear from you too.
Yeah, so student, I've allowed you to speak, so feel free to hop off mute and ask your question.
Hi, I'm Aino. I'm sorry it appears as student. I tried to change it, but I can't.
No
Well,
worries.
I'm a sixth grade teacher. I teach English. And one of the things that I want to do is also teach AI concepts, computer science things. And it's not easy because it's, English. They're like, what's the relevance, right? So what I do is I can go into ChatGPT. I feed it my entire sixth grade standards, right? And I'm like, this is an example scenario. I'm like, how can I have a lesson on the Google Teachable machine? I want students to use it, but I teach English and these are my standards. So can you help me figure out what standards I can align with a lesson that they are using to learn teachable machines. And I also shared my curriculum with it. And so now it's pulling from my curriculum the sixth grade standards. And then it's like, okay, here's a lesson, and gives me ideas. So if you are in a school which is very rigid and they're like, these are the standards, this is the curriculum, you can't deviate from this, you can go to an AI tool and ask it, hey, this is what I have, and I still want to teach these things. I want to do these things. How can I do that?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great piece of insight. Thank you for sharing. I love that you're bridging the English content area with the teachable machine. I think that's so cool. Yeah, I love that example. We also, I think, speaking to that example, if folks are interested in some of these competences, but they're not sure how to integrate it, we also have a prompt at the end of the framework. So you can upload the framework to your preferred AI tool and then include this prompt. And you can use AI as a way to brainstorm, kind of like what you just shared, new lesson ideas, ways to integrate it into your curriculum as well.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yes, hi. Good evening, and thank you for sharing this information. I teach high school, mostly computer science subject, and I'm also a part of the AI committee that at my district. And I just wanted to know if we could. We are in the process of developing AUP for AI, especially for student use at high school level. And I was wondering if we would be allowed to use some of the things from this framework as a part of our AUP. I know there, like, it says it has, like, come from a little bit from the common sense media, but I just wanted to get your perspective on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's
Right.
designed
Thank you.
exactly for your scenario. So we would be really grateful and honored if you brought this to your community as well. Yeah.
Right, and also just to add on to that, you said like there are certain schools that AI, like that the AI framework is already a part of in New York State. I was wondering, like, if maybe post chat, if you would be able to share like some contacts, so I could reach out to them, or maybe just collaborate if
Mhm.
that's possible.
Yeah, I'll have to check, but that
Yeah.
I think that would be a great opportunity as well.
Right. Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah. Or if folks who are in this session have done so, feel free. But yes, we hope that folks feel that this is all Creative Commons. It's free to use and available for the public. So if you want to bring this to your steering committee or AI strategic group or a professional learning committee, even, you are more than welcome to bring it and to let us know even how those conversations go.
Yeah, we'd love to hear about how you're interacting with the framework, especially as we think about making it more relevant and usable. So if there are certain resources that would be helpful to your usage and integration of the framework into your curriculum, please follow up with us and let us know.
Any other questions? Things we're not sure about? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, so I've put the registration form for next week's 2 weeks session. August 6th, I believe, is our next. Please feel free to share around with everyone. Completely free, and anyone can join, not just educators, anyone looking to upskill with AI are more than welcome to join. If we have no more questions, I'm happy to reveal the winner of our Tumblr sweepstakes, which is always the most exciting part of these sessions. So without further ado, congratulations, Christina Yamada, on your win. I will shoot an email out to you after this, and grab your mailing address. Congratulations, and thank you for joining us.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yes, Dr. Sonia Moore. Please feel free.
Hi, I just had a question regarding the AI task forces that I am connected with Massachusetts and Connecticut. Um, who would be the point of contact to actually connect? Because both of these states are writing policy for AI utilization for teachers, administrators, parents, and students.
That would be Katie.
Okay,
Yeah, please send me an email. I can put that again in the chat and I'll follow up with you with that information.
okay. It's not allowing to copy and paste. So I did put my LinkedIn in there as well, just in case. But I'm gonna try to take it there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have your email too, Dr. Sonia, from your sign up, so I can be sure to share that with Katie.
Okay.
Okay, so if we have no more questions, happy to give you guys 10 minutes back of your day, and thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, we're always happy to learn more. I'll send my email into the chat as well. We're happy to hear how you're using the framework or if you're integrating AI into your day-to-day. And we'd love to follow up and send over these materials that y'all are asking for. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Infosys, for having us. And I hope everyone enjoys their Wednesday night. Bye, Sina.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We appreciate you coming and we're happy to answer any questions as they arise.
Thank you. Thank you.